The first time Lena Carter heard about the boy, it was from a scream, not just any scream, the kind that echoed through bones. It was past midnight. The small town of Black Hollow was silent, wrapped in cold fog and dead streetlights. Lena sat alone in her room, fingers gently tracing the worn pages of an old Braille book. She couldn't see the darkness outside her window, but she could feel it, and tonight it felt alive. Then a scream, sharp, sudden, cut off too quickly. Lena froze. Her heart began to pound. She tilted her head slightly, listening. Footsteps, running, uneven, panicked, then silence. Complete silence. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her bed. "Someone's out there," she whispered, but she couldn't see. She never could. Lena had been blind since birth. The world had always been sound, texture, breath, and feeling. She knew people not by their faces, but by their presence. And right now, she felt something new, something watching, not from outside, but from inside her room. Her breath caught. "Hello," she whispered. No answer, but she heard it, a slow, controlled breath. Not hers. Someone else was there. Her body tensed, but strangely, she didn't feel fear. She felt sadness, deep, aching sadness. The floor creaked softly. A careful step. He was trying not to scare her. That's when she spoke again. "You don't have to hide." Silence. Then, finally, a voice. Low, broken. "You shouldn't be able to sense me." Lena's heartbeat quickened. She had never heard that voice before. It sounded young but ancient at the same time, like someone who had suffered for too long. She swallowed. "Who are you?" No answer. Instead, she felt something strange. Cold air shifting. He had moved closer. Very close. Close enough that she could feel his presence right in front of her. But he didn't touch her. He couldn't. "I shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "Then why are you?" A pause. Long, painful. "Because you can't see me." The word sent a chill through her. She frowned slightly. What does that mean? Another silence. He didn't answer. Instead, he whispered something that made her blood run cold. "I kill everything I touch when there's light." Lena stopped breathing. For a moment, she thought she misheard. "That's not possible," she said softly. "I wish it wasn't." His voice cracked. It wasn't pride. It was pain, regret, fear. "I didn't ask for this," he whispered. Outside, a distant streetlight flickered, and suddenly he moved back, fast, like he was afraid, terrified. "Don't," he said urgently. Lena froze. "Don't what?" "The light," he whispered. She tilted her head. "I can't see light." Another pause. Right. For the first time, she heard something new in his voice. Relief. Slowly, cautiously, Lena raised her hand forward. She didn't know why. She didn't know who he was. But she knew one thing. He was alone, just like her. Her fingers moved through the air, searching. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He was afraid. Not of her, but of hurting her. Her fingers came closer, closer, almost touching. He flinched. "Don't," he whispered again. "You said only in light," she replied gently. Silence. Her fingers moved forward, and then they touched his hand, cold, shaking, but alive. He gasped sharply, like he expected her to die instantly, but she didn't. She smiled softly. "You're not killing me." He didn't respond. He couldn't, because for the first time in his entire cursed life, someone was touching him and surviving. His hand trembled under hers. "How?" he whispered. She shook her head. "I don't know." But deep inside, she felt something strange, something familiar, something dark, something connected. Outside, the streetlight flickered again, and this time he pulled away instantly, like touching her was both heaven and torture. "I have to go." "Wait." He froze. She swallowed. "What's your name?" A long pause, like he had forgotten what that meant. Then finally, "Ethan." She smiled. "I'm Lena." Another silence. But this one was different. Softer, warmer, more dangerous. because neither of them realized the truth yet. Lena wasn't safe from him, and Ethan wasn't safe from her, because Lena Carter wasn't as human as she believed, and Ethan wasn't the only one cursed by the dark. Ethan didn't come back the next night. Lena noticed immediately, not because she saw the absence, but because she felt it. Her room felt colder without him. Empty. She sat on her bed, fingers resting on the same spot where she had touched his hand. The memory lingered there like a ghost. Cold, fragile, real. She waited, listening to every sound, every breath, every movement of air. But nothing came. 3 nights passed like that. 3 long, silent nights. And each night, Lena felt something growing inside her. Not fear, not sadness. Hunger, not for food, not for anything human. Something deeper, something older. On the 4th night, the scream returned. Closer this time, right outside her window. A man's voice. Terrified. Stay away from me. Footsteps stumbled. Then, silence. Lena stood up quickly. Her heart raced. She knew that scream. She had heard it before. The same night she met Ethan. Her fingers tightened into fists. "Ethan," she whispered. Suddenly, the air in her room shifted. She froze. That presence. She knew it instantly. "You came back," she said softly. Silence. But she could hear his breathing. Uneven. Shaking. He was hurt. She stepped closer. "What happened?" "I tried to stay away." His voice was weaker now. Broken. "I didn't want to risk hurting you." Her chest tightened. "You didn't hurt me." "You don't understand," he whispered. His voice trembled with guilt. "Tonight, someone followed me." Her heart skipped. And silence. Then, "I didn't touch him." Relief flooded her, but it didn't last. The light did. Her breath stopped. "What do you mean?" His voice dropped to a whisper. There was a street light. He grabbed me, and for 1 second, light touched my skin while he was holding my arm. He stopped breathing. He turned to dust. The words hung in the air, heavy, unreal. But Lena believed him, because she could hear the pain in his voice. "You didn't mean to," she said gently. "That doesn't matter," he replied. His voice cracked. "He's still dead." Silence filled the room. Then slowly, she reached for him again. This time, he didn't stop her. Her fingers found his arm. Still cold, still shaking. "You're not a monster," she whispered. He laughed bitterly. "That's exactly what I am." "No." Her grip tightened. "You're the only one who didn't hurt me." He froze. Those words hit him harder than anything else, because he knew what she meant. The world had always hurt her, ignored her, left her alone in darkness. And yet, she wasn't afraid of him. "I should leave," he said quietly. But he didn't move, because he didn't want to. Because for the first time in his cursed existence, he wasn't alone. "Stay," she whispered. He hesitated. "The sun will rise soon." Her lips curved slightly. "Then stay until it does." He slowly sat beside her, careful, controlled, afraid of every movement. Their shoulders almost touched. "Almost. Do you remember how it happened?" she asked. "My curse." She nodded. He stayed silent for a long time. Then finally, "I was 12. Her chest tightened. "My parents took me somewhere, a place deep in the forest. They said it was to cure my sickness." His voice grew colder. "But they lied." Her fingers tightened around the bed. "There was a woman there. She wasn't human." A pause. "She said I was chosen." The words sounded like poison in his mouth. She touched my face and everything went black. His breathing grew uneven. When I woke up, my parents were gone. Silence. And the first person I touched. He stopped. He didn't need to finish. Lena already knew. "They died," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "Yes." The room felt heavier, darker. "But you don't kill me," she said. He turned toward her. She couldn't see his face, but she felt his attention, his confusion, his fear. "That's what terrifies me the most," he whispered. Her heart skipped. "Why?" His voice dropped lower. "Because it means there's something wrong with you, too." Silence. But Lena didn't feel offended. She felt relief, because he was right. There was something wrong with her. Something she had always known, even if she didn't understand it. Sometimes she heard whispers no one else heard. Sometimes she felt things before they happened. Sometimes darkness felt more like home than light ever could. "I'm not afraid," she said softly. He exhaled slowly. "You should be." But she wasn't, because without him, she was alone, and alone was worse than fear. Outside, the sky slowly began to change. Morning was coming. Ethan stood up instantly. "I have to go." Her hand grabbed his sleeve. "Will you come back?" He hesitated. He didn't know if he should. He didn't know if he deserved to. But he knew one thing. He wanted to. "Yes." Her lips curved into a small smile. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. But neither of them noticed the truth. Outside her window, the shadows weren't fading with the coming sunrise. They were growing, watching, waiting. Because Lena Carter wasn't just immune to the darkness. She belonged to it. The whisper started the night Ethan didn't leave before sunrise. He had meant to. He always meant to. But Lena had fallen asleep beside him, her fingers loosely wrapped around his wrist, as if afraid he would disappear. And for once, he didn't pull away. He stayed. The first ray of sunlight slipped through the cracked curtains. Ethan felt it before it touched him. Heat. Burning. He jerked back violently. But Lena didn't scream. She didn't turn to ash. She didn't even let go. Instead, the light bent, twisted, shifted away from them, like something invisible swallowed it whole. Ethan froze. The sunlight that touched the floor near him shimmered, then darkened, like it had been consumed by a shadow. "What?" he whispered. Lena stirred awake slowly. She tilted her head. "The room feels loud," she murmured. Loud. That's how she described magic. Because suddenly the air vibrated. The walls creaked. The darkness in the corners of the room began to move. Not randomly. Not naturally. They were crawling toward her. Ethan stepped back. "Lena." She sat up slowly. "What's wrong?" The shadows reached the edge of her bed and stopped, waiting, like loyal servants. Ethan's voice trembled. "They're responding to you." She frowned. "What are—" "The shadows." Silence. Then a whisper filled the room. But it wasn't Ethan. It wasn't Lena. It was everywhere. "Daughter." Lena's body stiffened. Her breathing slowed. Ethan moved closer instinctively. "Did you hear that?" She nodded slowly. "Yes." Another whisper. Soft. Ancient. "Come home." The shadows suddenly surged upward, wrapping around her legs, her waist, not hurting her, holding her. Ethan lunged forward without thinking and grabbed her arm. For one split second, a thin blade of sunlight struck his shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. He screamed. His skin began to crack. But the shadow around Lena flared violently. It swallowed the sunlight instantly. Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping. Lena turned toward him. "Ethan!" The shadows released her and retreated slightly. Obedient. He stared at her in disbelief. "You controlled it." "I didn't do anything," she cried. But even as she said it, the shadows curled around her fingers gently, affectionately, like they knew her, like they loved her. The whisper returned, stronger this time. "You were never blind." Lena froze. Her chest tightened. "What does that mean?" "You were sealed." Memories began to flash in her mind. Not images, feelings. Cold stone floors, chanting voices, hands holding her down as a baby, a woman crying. She must never see. Lena gasped. Her hands flew to her head. I remember something." Ethan stood slowly, ignoring the pain burning under his skin. "Lena, look at me." "I can't," she whispered. "Exactly." The whisper deepened, filled with power. "You were born from shadow." The room trembled. Windows cracked. Outside, birds scattered into the sky. "You are the gate." Ethan's heart pounded violently. Gate to what? Silence. Then, to us. The shadows exploded outward. covering the walls entirely. The room plunged into unnatural darkness, even darker than night. Ethan could barely see his own hands. But Lena, she stood perfectly still, calm. Her cloudy, sightless eyes slowly began to change. Blackness spread across them, like ink in water. And then, for the first time in her life, she saw, not the room, not Ethan. She saw the shadows, thousands of them, moving, breathing, watching. They weren't absence of light. They were creatures, ancient beings pressed against the thin veil of the world, waiting for her. Tears slid down her face. I can see them. Ethan's blood ran cold. See what? They've been calling me my whole life. The whisper turned into a chorus. Come home, daughter of the veil. The floor beneath her cracked. Dark energy spiraled upward around her body. Ethan rushed forward again, grabbing her shoulders, this time fully in shadow. No sunlight, no danger. Lena, listen to me. She turned toward him, and for the first time, she looked at him, actually looked. Her darkened eyes locked onto his face. He froze. You're beautiful, she whispered. His breath hitched. She could see him, because there was no light touching him now, only shadow. You're not afraid? He asked. She smiled softly. No. The shadows pulsed stronger. You don't belong to them, he said urgently. They sealed you because they were afraid. The whisper hissed angrily. Lies! You were born human. Ethan shouted. Your blindness was a spell, a lock. They sealed your sight, so you would never open the gate. The room shook violently. Lena clutched her chest, two forces pulling her apart, the shadows whispering promises. Power, belonging, home, and Ethan, warm, shaking. Human, you're not a monster, he whispered desperately. They are. The shadows lashed toward him suddenly, striking his back. He fell hard against the wall. Lena screamed, Stop! The entire room froze. The shadows paused midair, waiting. Her voice had commanded them. Ethan coughed, struggling to stand. You see, he said weakly, they obey you. Tears streamed down her face. I don't want this. The whisper softened. You were created for this. She shook her head violently. No. The shadows began to pull her backward, toward the cracking floor, toward the darkness beneath. Ethan lunged forward one last time and grabbed her hand. Tight, desperate. Choose, Lena. The floor split open completely, a void swirling beneath them, a gateway forming, the daughter of the veil awakening. Lena looked down at Ethan, at the only person who had ever touched her without fear, without pity, without light. The shadows roared. Come home. And Lena had to decide, stay human, or become what she was born to be. The void beneath Lena pulsed like a living heart, calling her, claiming her. The shadows wrapped tightly around her body, pulling her closer to the gate. Their whispers were no longer soft. They were desperate, hungry. Come home, daughter. Lena's blackened eyes stared into the endless darkness below. She could feel them, thousands of ancient beings reaching for her, waiting for her, loving her. She had never belonged anywhere before, not in the light, not in the human world. But here, she belonged. Ethan's hand tightened around hers, warm, fragile, human. Don't go, he whispered. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with heartbreak. She turned toward him, his pale face, his shaking body. His eyes filled with something she had never seen before. Not fear, not pity, love. You'll die, she said softly. If you stay here, if the light touches you. I don't care. Her chest tightened. You should. I don't, he repeated. His voice broke. I spent my whole life alone. Everything I touched turned to dust. His grip tightened. Except you. The shadows pulsed violently. Angry, threatened. She is ours. Ethan ignored them. You're not a monster, Lena. The shadows screamed. She is the gate. She's human, Ethan said firmly. The void roared louder. Reality itself began to crack around them. The gate was opening, whether she chose it or not. Lena screamed as pain ripped through her body. Two worlds tearing her apart. The shadow realm pulling her soul, the human world holding her heart. I can't stop it, she cried. Ethan looked at her and made his choice. He stepped forward, into the light. A single beam of sunlight broke through the broken window. It touched his arm instantly. His skin began to crack, turning gray, turning to dust. Lena's eyes widened in horror. Ethan, stop! But he didn't stop. He stepped fully into the light. His body began to crumble, piece by piece. I love you, he said. The words hit her harder than any force in existence. I'd rather die as someone you loved than live in a world without you. His hand began to disappear in hers, turning to ash, falling between her fingers. The shadows froze, watching, waiting, because this was the moment, the choice, love or eternity. Lena's entire body trembled. She looked at Ethan, at the boy cursed by the light, the boy who had chosen her anyway. Tears streamed down her face. I won't lose you. The shadows screamed instantly. You belong to US. She screamed back, no! The entire void shook violently. The shadows lashed at her, trying to pull her down, claim her, control her. But they stopped because Lena reached into the darkness and grabbed it, not as their daughter, not as their gate, but as their master. You don't control me, she whispered. Her eyes blazed with power. I control you. The shadows froze completely. For the first time in eternity, they obeyed her. She turned to Ethan. Half his body was already dust, his face barely holding together. She gently placed her hand on his cheek. I choose him. The shadows roared in fury, but they obeyed because she was their queen, the daughter of the veil, and she had made her choice. The shadows surged forward, not to pull her down, but to protect him. They wrapped around Ethan's crumbling body, shielding him from the light. The sunlight vanished instantly. His body stopped turning to dust. The cracks in his skin slowly began to heal. Color returned. Breath returned. Life returned. He collapsed into her arms. Alive, he stared at her in disbelief. You saved me. She smiled through her tears. No, she whispered. I chose you. The void beneath them began to close, the gate sealing itself. Not locked, not destroyed. Controlled by her, the shadows slowly settled. Silent, obedient, peaceful. Ethan looked at her blackened eyes. You're not human anymore, are you? She stayed quiet. Then softly, I'm still me. He reached for her hand, hesitant, afraid something had changed. But when their fingers touched, nothing happened. No death, no curse, only warmth. He smiled. You're still the only one I can touch. She smiled back. And you're still the only one I choose. Outside, the sunlight filled the room, but it never touched him because the shadows been around him, protecting him, obeying her. Years later, the town of Black Hollow would whisper about the girl who controlled darkness and the boy who survived the light. They said she was no longer human. They said she had become something else, something ancient, something powerful. But they never saw the truth. Because every night, when the world fell asleep, she would sit beside him in the dark, holding his hand, not as a goddess, not as a monster, but as a girl who chose love over eternity, and a boy who could only touch her in the dark.